Welcome back, everybody, to another designated Inquirer market day. I am Axel. It is 8/4/2020, and today the market did actually make a new higher high. Overnight, it had broken the previous level. It took a very large dip, and then over the course of the day, it dropped and came back up and made another slightly higher high. Now this higher high versus previous higher highs is a little bit more substantial. How much more substantial? Let's take a quick look. Right now we're looking at, well, still not super high. It's 0.3%. It's not a ton higher, but it's still higher. It is continuing the general uptrend. It broke this general downtrend. It is now making this general uptrend at the moment, where it makes a higher low at right here. It did technically make a higher high, so tomorrow it is still poised to keep going higher. So the bulls still have control over this. But the overall outside factors as to how it's contributing to the economy is still the same. Same story as yesterday. There's still a lot of pressure on the economy to move downward. There's still yet another day where they haven't passed stimulus to where people are going to be able to keep getting their unemployment checks, etc., to where people can still be evicted from their homes for not paying rent, even though they can't pay rent because, well, their jobs don't exist at the moment because of the shutdowns. Now, something that I have seen recently talked about is that whether or not there was a taking done by the government, in that it was government mandated in a lot of areas for the economy to shut down, for certain businesses and stuff to stop functioning, to cease their functions, to lower the spread of coronavirus. It wasn't exactly left up to the businesses themselves to cease and desist their daily functions and their businesses. It was mandated by the local governments as to what to do. Now, because of this, I think it's another reason why a form of UBI should be implemented, because it was the government that mandated the shutdown. It should be the government that essentially steps in to pay everybody during the shutdown so that further damage isn't done. Now, are the shutdowns still justified? In my opinion, yes. Are they saving lives? I think so. What has led the cases to continue to rise over time and for the deaths to rise over time from their lows where they were at one point? We hadn't completely eliminated them, but we were on a more or less of a downtrend. It was basically the reopening of the economy, but without necessarily a protocol as to how to go about doing that in the safest way possible, because there were a lot of people that just didn't really take anything into account and just decided to go about their lives like there was no pandemic around. That's what led to the cases to re-rise again, for the deaths per day to rise as well, and for there to be subsequent re-shutting down of certain parts of the economy. Because while the whole economy isn't shut down, in that we don't have quote-unquote stay-at-home orders, again, we do still have a lot of sectors of the economy still shut down. There can't be any concerts, there can't be any bars open, there can't be seating areas in restaurants that you can like visit. A lot of people are still working from home. It's still basically dangerous to be in an enclosed room with very limited airflow, and even with a mask. A screen is not going to protect you, and this is why going back to school is not a great idea at the moment. It's not something that we can just say with confidence that we can do, like with a certainty that when kids come back from school, even though they may not suffer greatly from the virus itself, which is still possible, we don't know for certain that nobody's going to die, no kids are going to die if they go to school, that their parents or their grandparents, if it's a multi-generational household, could die as well. We just don't know. And they're more than likely going to get sick. That's a statistically high likelihood of that happening, considering how much time kids have to be within the same room of each other, even though they may be spaced apart. The fact that the virus can become airborne through a process of it basically evaporating part of the water that's around itself from the droplets that we eject from our mouths, is just, that's a certainty. That's what happens to a virus within an enclosed area that has very minimally flowing air. It probably happens in open air as well, but because there's so much more space for air to go and for those droplets to get to, the statistical chance of it arriving on your mask or through your mask is less likely than if you were just stuck in a space with the same air. You're just the ability to just keep rolling the die and say, am I going to get it now? 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 With each roll, even though you're dealing with the same dice, that's the thing, you're dealing with the same dice, and each time you're making that roll, it's not necessarily that it's a new roll, it's just the likelihood of when you're going to land on, yes, I got it. It's a matter of when, not if, you're in the same space with somebody with coronavirus in an enclosed space. It's just a matter of time. The longer you're in there, the higher the likelihood, the statistical likelihood of you getting it. That's how it works, because the person is going to keep ejecting material into the air, and it's going to continue to get airborne, and the density of the virus in the air continues to increase, and so it's just a matter of time before you breathe in the particle needed for it to infect you, and then you become an agent of infection, a vector of infection as well. If you then become sick enough to start producing or start ejecting virus into the air as well. That's school. That's being in a classroom. It doesn't matter if it's 5 kids. It doesn't matter if it's 20 kids. It doesn't matter if it's 30 kids. It doesn't matter if it's 40 kids, depending on the school that you go to, etc. Everybody in that class, if they're not a danger to themselves, or if they're not in danger of suffering from the virus, they're going to get everybody else. They're in a position to put everybody else in danger around them, including the very teacher that's trying to teach them. So unless a teacher is teaching from a room over or whatnot, or somehow kids can somehow be secluded to themselves, like a summer camp, but without any contact with adults, like it's like the amount of work that has to be done for school to be viable under the conditions that we're in is it's hard. It's not an easy thing to try and come up with a solution, a simple solution for it to apply to all the factors and variables that schools have to deal with. We're just not in a place that we can do that at the moment. But so there lies if school is not viable, and that has an effect on the general economy, because it's going to be a lot harder for people to be able to go to school. And while there was a person recently who on Twitter was suggesting that, well, what if we just pay a person to essentially do, in a way, daycare, but still let teachers assign homework and things, assignments to kids, and have a younger quote-unquote person, teach them and tutor them during school hours. A guy by the name of Jason Calacanis. I don't much agree with this person. There's very few overlap between his ideology and what I believe. He's not. He seems to be like a Gen X, or where he very much wants our current system of capitalism to work, and it's obviously not. It's obviously not working. It's not sufficient for what we need as a society. But he really wants it to work. But he's suggesting that parents can, be able to pull out of nowhere an extra $20 a month, where they may or may not actually be getting paid at the moment, to just pay for basically daycare with no help from the government, to pay an extra $20 a day, and that's per parent for a couple of kids or whatnot. It's for a few parents to pool together $20 a day, an extra $20 a day, so $100 a week, an extra $400 a month out of thin air to be able to pay for daycare so that they can go to work. There aren't a lot of people that have got just an extra $400 a month just lying around just so they can keep their kid in school, being taken care of by a tutor slash caretaker that's not already school. Like, that's why public school is public school. It's already free. People are already getting the benefit of basically doubly acting as daycare. Even though it's not supposed to work that way, that's effectively what it's become. And without it, we're left with not the great option of not having people go to work because they can't, because they have to take care of the kids. And so, yeah, this is where we're at. So we're still somewhat, in an uptrend. We'll see whether or not Nancy Pelosi meets with the White House today and has a productive meeting with the Treasury Secretary, and we'll see if anything happens from that meeting, because it's supposed to take place at, I believe, 3 p.m. Well, it should have been 3 p.m. I thought it was at Eastern time, but the meeting should already be over, so I don't know what happened. We'll see what happens, but until then, I think that's everything. Yeah, I think that's everything. So yeah, take care, guys. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care, stay safe, and yeah, bye.